here's what's going to happen, and this is what's been happening. We get good news, and then it's then a bad inflation print, and it's like, well, why isn't this working? It's because we've still got as wage inflation increases, it actually makes actual inflation more sticky. So until you get major companies laying off a lot of people, and we've got this inflation is supply side related, not it's not tied specifically to the monetary problem at the moment. So we've got to slow everything down enough, and the only way we're going to do that is running into a recession.
We got a lot of data to talk about today. Data that both Scott and I follow. Keith Smith is going to join us. He's coming from a car board meeting. Data tied to inventory nationally. We saw an actual drop on the 30 fix, a smidge, that we could talk about with Scott Morris. So a lot to cover on a Wednesday on Real Talk. Judah Wickower is our director. We can rock and roll, Judah, when you are ready. Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you on a Wednesday where the show is presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris. Today's a fantastic day to have Scott on set with data all over the major networks. If you pop on CNBC right now, you would see a tremendous week for not only earnings and companies like Microsoft and Google, who reported yesterday, but Jay Powell and the Fed on the near horizon on a Wednesday with anywhere from half a point to a full point to 3/4 of a point of rate hike expectation on the near horizon. We'll talk about this on a Wednesday. We're seeing inventory certainly slow nationally. Redfin now expecting somewhere between 13 and 20% of a decline in inventory with sold homes in 2022. We'll discuss that with Keith Smith. He'll be on set here in a matter of minutes following a Charlottesville-Albemarle Association of Realtors board meeting this morning. Judah Wickower, let's go to the studio cam, please, and let's welcome the star of our show, Scott Morris, to the program.
Thank you.
Where do you want to begin?
I don't know. So, we've got green on the screen everywhere. You've got every single altcoin in crypto land is reacting positively. Where we don't have green on the screen, which technically is green in my world, is we're starting, the U.S. 10-year is continuing to fall. I think we're in like 2.7 territory at this point. There we go, 10-year 2.761. Which is good news from mortgage rates, assuming that continues after 2 o'clock. Once what they actually are probably like 155. Once like somebody out there knows what they're actually going to say, and they're just before that leaks. But everything is seeming to react positively, meaning market conditions believe that the 75 basis point isn't going to significantly slow, and it's in line, So when you talk about everything being priced in, 3 months ago, if you said we were going to have back-to-back 75 basis point rate increases
and
from the
greed
Fed,
on the screen, we would have said no way.
It would have been it would have been a taper tantrum, but now they're seeing that we can't adjust for that, and part of the reason is these major corporations have been ahead of the game and browbeating us with price increases because of inflation, even though the inflation is really a creation of them generating more profit.
Interact with us, guys, with leaving your comments in the comment section. We'll get to them live on air. We'll welcome friends in Lynchburg to the show. You're looking at Jen Sherling watching over in the Lynchburg area. If you have questions, please put them in the feed. So let's talk about how this impacts housing. A week over week, what are you seeing your book of business across the Ross landscape and the folks you follow with housing. We're seeing some backing out of contracts, and we're seeing a drop in inventory. What are you seeing?
So, I mean, we've got a great August lined up, and but I've talked to a lot of agents who say that they feel things are slower right now, and I think part of that is we are still in some of summer vacation mode. We're right before kids are going back to school, squeezing in last-minute vacations. I think that's probably a big part of what's going on. We have the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith, sitting down with us now. And we're seeing, so what's odd, and I'll take a look here in a few minutes to kind of see what mortgage-backed securities are doing, but I see on at least CNBC screen an uptick in mortgage rates where we're seeing a downward tick in the U.S. 10-year, which is a little odd, but, you know, we've been coming down in rate, but again, I've said this week over week. This is going to continue to be a constant push and pull between a recession narrative and an inflation narrative over what's controlling the bond market. And I said that I said that we were at our peak, and then I backed off of that. But man, it's tough not to say that at this point, seeing that the push and pull has kept us limited below, 5 3/4 as far as a median rate for at least the last 60 days.
Guys, the Wednesday of Real Talk, presented by Scott Morris and Ross Mortgage. We're talking financials today. Elizabeth Warren on screen here. Elizabeth Warren is now saying she's opposed to rate hikes to combat inflation. I was watching members of the Biden administration yesterday on the national networks talking about how the definition of a recession, 2 down quarters of GDP, is no longer the applicable definition of a recession. I was left scratching my head after watching that. I'll leave it at that. We'll welcome Keith Smith to the program.
Hey, if
on
you
a
can't,
3-shot. You said it best.
Can't win the game, change the rules.
You saw the same, right? Did you see that?
This has been an administration who constantly moves the goalpost. From expectations with COVID to, now with changing the definition of inflation, to Elizabeth Warren, who just hates the banking community. So the Fed raising the rates benefits the banks. And this is just, this is the same people strumming the same tunes over and over again.
We'll work Keith Smith into the mix. You just left the CAR board meeting. What's been the temperature and the mood at Hillsdale at the conference center? Yeah? What's the conference center? How are the realtors holding up?
Yeah, I think we're doing great. I do want to kick off with God bless you two gentlemen and anybody who has little people in their lives. I just spent the week taking care of a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old of our grandchildren, and I need a break after that. So it's been a while since I've remembered that whole.
I kind of operate from a Lord of the Flies mentality to where just until somebody needs to go to the hospital.
He's very Darwinistic.
Unless they're bleeding, everything is okay.
In the Scott Morris household.
Yeah, I don't know, but then you get this whole our 1.5-year-old since our daughter Yasmina calls me Dad, and my grandfather's name is Pop. She calls me Pop Dad.
Oh, well, that's cute, man.
And then you get, hey, Pop Dad, and then everything is kind of goes out the window. But love being a grandparent.
How the realtors?
Yeah, so look, O shift, right? We've been predicting O shift for quite some time on the show, and we're in the middle of an O shift. And a shift necessarily isn't a bad thing, and it necessarily isn't a good thing. It's just a different thing. I will tell you the market has shifted back to something that I would like to call a little bit more normal. And I think that's the conversation around the water cooler. I negotiated over the weekend in the drive down my first home inspection contingency removal addendum that I really haven't done in over 2 years. And it was a little back and forth, and thank God we had a pro on the other side, but there's a lot of agents out there that are new to the business that may have never done a home inspection and negotiations. This was a 2-page home inspection contingency addendum. So we got through it, which was great, but it took multiple phone calls. So I think that's what's going on with the shift on the end of it. At least at Yes Realty Partners, our tempo has not gone down. I don't know what Scott's seeing, but
He's got a great August lined up.
Yeah, so that would kind of indicate our tempo. I don't see our tempo going down. I see sellers slowly coming to the reality of the O shift. Buyers, I think, got there a long time ago, pretty much right out of the box on it. But it's we're among the shift. But we were in a seminar yesterday about some progress of what's happening down the pike in the industry, and the person that was given the seminar said everybody who feels good about
Is this Nikki Chambliss?
No, this was something else.
Okay.
Something else. Everybody in the room stand up who thinks that inflation is going to impact, and everybody stood up, and then everybody in the room stood up that said, are they going to have a good year next year? And everybody stood up. So it was a bunch of real estate agents. So
this link shared by Christoph for the panel, released 19 minutes ago. Data from the National Association of Realtors. Signed contracts to purchase existing homes dropped 20% in June. Compare with the same month a year ago. Christoph sharing the link. Pending home sales fell a wider than expected 8.6% in June from May. And he wants the take of Scott in the panel on this link from CNBC. NAR is now forecasting total sales for the year will be down roughly 13%. Redfin about 17%.
Are we talking about down from last year?
yeah.
That's the point. Last year's the anomaly.
Yeah, so the last 2 years have been an anomaly. I mean, I think if you want to look at that,
18, 19.
yeah, if you compared it to 18, 19, I think I don't see the bad news in that number. Like we're down 20% from a market that was up probably 30%. Like, okay, this still doesn't strike me as a tragedy.
Okay, I think that's a cut. Cut that into a sizzle reel. I'm definitely hearing that. I think that's reliable content. His response to that is that's further in the past than last year, which
So we last year
an anomaly.
It's okay. Prior to the show, we were talking about the steroid era in baseball. Like we just came off the steroid era in real estate. So if you're you can't compare Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, and Mark McGwire to today's hitters in a legitimate fashion because they were getting the juice, baby.
That was a great analogy right there, Scott Morris.
Just like we had the government giving the juice to the market, and if you want to make that comparison and then strum a sad song, you don't live on the side of reality when it comes to like what the market should look like. And we're getting back to that.
That's probably the best analogy done on this network ever in the history of the network.
I thank you.
An HGH steroid analogy made it on the show. That was fantastic. You can tell he's a sports fan. Keith Smith, jump in here.
Yeah, so I have not been gone a week. I have not. By the way, thank you for everybody for covering me for a week, and Nikki and Scott and Greg Slater for covering for me. Look, I haven't looked at week over week in quite some time, and I actually did it this morning, and it's interesting. This week we had 77 new units. This is the car footprint, Charlottesville Association of Realtors, 77. A year ago, guess what? We had 77 come on the market. How many went into pending last week? 104. Same week a year ago, 64. So actually more units are going into pending this week than a week ago. The big change is the back on the market. That doubled. That went from 10 a year ago to 21. So that's what we're talking about, these contracts coming back on, going on the market. But they're coming back on the market and they're going back off, right? Because we're at 60, 70, 80, 90. We're at roughly 40 more units that went pending this week than a year ago. And again, everybody agrees a year ago was a bit nuts on that end of it. I think
what's happening is the layman, the average consumer of news, is seeing this content on CNBC and the Associated Press, and they're not I don't want to use the word sophisticated, but they're just seeing the year-over-year comparison.
Well, traders aren't sophisticated. I mean, we've got so much of this stuff is algorithm driven that once the good news starts, like everything's in the positive today. Like, and gold, you've got some commodities that aren't. But that's because they're inflation hedge commodities that all of a sudden, I mean, things trend in a certain way, and then they trend back, and that's when I talk about the ebb and flow of volatility in these two different narratives. Today is the Fed's going to give 75 bips, but the market thinks it's already priced in. Everything's good. Crypto's good. There's no reason that every single altcoin, every single useless, worthless, tied to no kind of value crypto coin is running positive today, outside of the fact that the market is in more of a risk-on mode. So,
and also the 75 bips are baked in. The expectation is today's announcement has already been baked into the market.
So this morning, what's the 30-year at?
5.67.
The 30-year?
Yeah.
5.67, and the 10 years at 2.76, I think.
Yeah, 30's at 5.67 when I saw it coming into the show. And to the point, and folks are agreeing here, you see the headlines that it's 20% year over year. And it's the CNBC, the Associated Press, is using last year's data to make a sexy headline. Because if the headline was compared to 2019, it wouldn't stand out.
It's funny you should say that. On the way home yesterday, I was listening to NPR, and I don't have it with me, but Reuters actually just did a poll, and you probably read this already, that that people are in droves getting away from regular media. And they're doing what we do, right? They're doing what Jerry does and what Scott does. They're podcasts, and the people are watching and listening to that in a long-form format on it, which, Jerry was a genius to come up with this idea for a long time ago on it. But it was very interesting listening to that, people are starting to go, that's exactly what you just said. It was one of the things too sexy.
When we talk about priced in, and if you want to look at something that's actually interesting on that screen, and if people want to look at it themselves, the 30-year mortgages, we got good news. We're starting the mortgage-backed securities about a 20-point basis move, but when people talk about ARMs and they talk about what if I were to go from a 30-year to a 15? The 15-year and ARM are actually worse today, because what the bond market is pricing in is a worse 2-year outlook due to these increases, that everything is forecasting a recession. And I don't, it may not be a long recession, it may not be a deep recession, it may not be a hard landing, but it's coming. And that's what all of these things are pricing in, and that to me is probably still the bigger story, is looking at the 2-year, 10-year inverse versus just what we're seeing on the screen.
What do you think, Keith Smith?
So go back to what the real estate market is saying and what realtors are saying. I can only speak to our phone calls that we've got coming in, and people are ready to put their houses on the market. They seem to be stepping, at least for us anyway. They're stepping back in. I think this new normal, which was normal to start with, which was 5.5% or somewhere between 5 and 6% mortgage rates, is kind of settling itself back in. Our phones are picking up for that kind of stuff, and you're kind of seeing it because week over week, year over year, we're still seeing the same amount of new units coming on the market, but the increase in pending going out is telling me more folks are writing deals.
Hey, if you're someone out there as a homeowner who's listening, take it and you've hit some sort of life experience milestone to whether it be death, divorce, new baby, whatever it is that is driving, or you're just looking for the new shiny thing, now's the time to best take advantage of putting that property on the market and getting those gains that you've received over the last few years. Again, I don't expect property values to go down, but right now there's still enough limited inventory to where you may not be driving the boat, but not the buyer may not be either. I think right now there's still so much opportunity for the seller, but we're getting to where I'm starting to see, all right, I do want to get rid of this, and I'd like to get rid of it right now. If you were unhappy with the home inspection, what if we gave $3,000 in seller concessions and moved this thing along?
Literally, that's what happened this weekend.
That's what happened.
So we're back to that, and obviously we haven't closed yet, so I can't get into details. But literally, that's what happened, and there was some really, let's say, not big issues show up in it.
But I'd rather give you $3,000 than bring somebody out to my house, get them in here, get the stuff. Let's just get to the closing table.
So after our phone call this morning, my phone call was with the client on the way into the car board meeting, and literally that's where we ended up. So, okay, let's just kind of work on this as far as numbers go and move on. Because the second end of that equation on the home inspection items, yes, we can agree on this list, but I can't get Jerry to come and show up to do the plumbing work because Jerry's 6 months behind, and we got a closing in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So the whole skill level has just been ramped back up. And
one thing we can say that has been impacted here, and we'll get to the comments that are coming in. John Blair, welcome to the show. Vanessa Parkhill, welcome to the show. We got the folks at the Seaville, the newsroom, watching the broadcast as we speak. One thing we can say is affordability has worsened. Home prices, price points, especially in this area, we're not seeing going down. Rates have increased. Inflation is out of control.
so it's interesting in this meeting yesterday.
Affordability is way worse right now.
And it's great. I'm glad that you said that. In this meeting, these 30, 40, I think we're about 50 real estate agents in the room. They were asked the question, how is affordability looking is for the next 12 to 24 months? You know, do you see, what sort of increase of appreciation do you see in the next, and it's really interesting, even a room full of professionals, that number was all over the map on it. Nobody saw it going down. But some people were at zero and some people were at double digits.
There's no question. Anyone who says affordability is better now than it was during the pandemic and before the pandemic is wrong.
The point.
Affordability is worse.
The point is that to Scott's point is the question was, if you buy now, am I going to increase in value 5 years or 6 years from now? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The question is how much.
The barrier of entry is higher. This question is come in, if Powell calls for 75 basis points, Scott, what is that going to do to the 30 fixed?
Mortgage or
30-year fixed mortgage. Everyone's asking 30 fixed, yeah. Are we gonna surpass 6?
No, at least not in the short term. What the inflation? So these two things, that's not how they're two entirely separate things. So the Fed's rate is going to control short-term lending, credit cards, businesses, cars, bank to bank, that sort of lending.
The credit cards are going to go up.
Yes. The 30-year fix, what we're seeing is
floating debt goes up.
Yeah, floated debt.
Yeah.
HELOCs. So what we're already seeing is the bond market is pricing in this 75 basis point increase, which is bringing down 30-year mortgage. Not significantly, but it's bringing it down. We were at a 0% Fed rate from 2009 to 2016, and we had mortgage rates as high as 5.5% as recently as 2018. Mm-hmm. So the Fed rate is not tied to the U.S. or to the 30-year fixed mortgage. That's driven by the bond market and mortgage-backed securities being purchased on the secondary market and the appetite for investors. Right now, the appetite for investors is not great for mortgages because I believe, that we're going to be at a 4.5% 30-year fixed mortgage inside of 12 months is my belief.
You've been calling that pretty steady.
He's been very consistent with that.
there's no appetite on the secondary market for an investor, be it like a Mr. Cooper or any large servicer, to go spend $415,000 for a $400,000 mortgage if they're not going to meet that premium in actual recovered payments. So that's why pricing is not optimal right now for the 30-year. It has nothing to do with it has nothing directly related to do with the Fed rate. It has everything to do with the future vision of the bond market and what's going to happen when the Fed once we actually are in a recession and they have to start using tools to mitigate that. When they do that, that's going to then push even more activity into the bond market, driving mortgage rates lower.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to end up back to that 4.5%. Now, that 4.5% I don't think is going to be permanent. I think in a 24-month vision, as we come back out, we probably end up closer to a 5% normalcy with a fixed mortgage rate. But I do think that we dip below that, which is going to be a huge benefit to everybody who's purchasing right now. You're going to be building equity in the house. You're going to be able to lower your rate. You're going to save tens of thousands of dollars over the course of the loan. And you're going to have a lot of different options. That's the future.
Let's clip that, J-Dubs. That's good for number 2, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so I was trying to explain this to my daughter, actually, my youngest daughter, about the 30-year mortgage rate, and it's a commodity, right? It's kind of think of it, because people buy into it and invest in it and invest out of it.
Or we could use the realtor thing that's floating around the Facebook constantly. You marry the house, you date the mortgage, baby.
Okay,
Yeah.
or
You
that.
date the rate. Marry the house, date the rate.
Date the rate, marry the house. But the point is the conversation was, oh my God, Powell's going to raise it anywhere between, or the whole Fed, anywhere between 3/4 to 1 point, and it's going to directly reflect into the mortgage.
It influences it, though.
It influences
Yeah.
it, but it's not the driving factor. To Scott's point, back when it was 0, it still was 5%, right? Back in, or close to darn near 0 in 18 and 19. On the end of it, I think what's going to really impact the rate more than anything is what you guys were kicked off when I walked in, is this new definition of a recession. If this new definition of recession becomes popular out there, it's going to impact.
Well,
It's not popular. No, anybody.
people see through that kind of stuff. I think people see through what Biden, we're not talking politics here, but what Biden was, the administration with redefining recession, I see through it. Judah, you see through it. You see through it.
They're kicking the can until the jobless data catches up, and then they go,
Yeah. Oops.
look, no, not oops. Then they say, oh, see, what we were doing
Was
worked.
right all along.
Yeah.
We've been on top of this all along. We've managed this the right way the whole way. It's managing perception.
Yeah, but
it's
what else
an
would-
advertising and branding tactic.
But wouldn't you not suggest that to
I
them?
do not suggest that. I would suggest he gets in front of it and say, I could never have predicted COVID would happen.
Sure.
This is a once in a lifetime thing.
Well, this
I'll
goes
work
back-
my tail off to fix this.
Nice.
Look at
Be
the-
honest.
Be transparent.
Look
Yeah.
at things as simple as gas prices are high. The president doesn't control gas prices. Then all of a sudden you see a fall in prices, and then what does the White House tweet? Look at what we've done to help you to lower prices.
Right, I mean,
it's like, bro, I thought 2 weeks ago you said you didn't control them. Like,
Judah's loving this.
I got to
this as
tell
well.
you, before I gassed up to go to Connecticut, I think I paid at Costco $3.88 or something like that, and it was like, wow, this is cool. But then my wife said, yeah, but a year ago we were paying whatever, and I went, oh, so it's a perception thing. I'm going to pivot a little bit while we're still on financing and stuff like that. We haven't thrown this word out in a while. You seeing any creeping up in foreclosures, anything like that?
How about canceled contracts?
Well, you're seeing that in new construction big time.
Yeah, but I don't do new construction in the same way that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I'm the preferred lender for a couple different turnkey builders, meaning they don't want to wait on draws for a bank. They don't want somebody else's permission to build. They go build a house, sell a house. So let's say that I had a great conversation with somebody about this yesterday. So they've got a friend who is here at the Blue Ridge School, who left a job and has now started their own business, and they've basically been told you aren't going to be able to go buy a house because of what you've just done.
What? Change jobs and go self-employed?
Going self-employed. Kind of true. So depending on
pretty tough spot for the broker, the mortgage guy.
Depending on what everything else looks like, I may not necessarily need 2 years to make that work for you. But if you want to go try to buy land, it's a more risk heavy asset, meaning that if you're already living in a house and the self-employed business that you've created starts to go through troubled times, most likely you are going to not stop paying.
You're going to sell your crib.
Well, you may not stop paying on that mortgage that you're in because you need a place to live. But if you've also just purchased some land that you plan on building this dream house with, that land ain't getting paid for.
Yeah.
They can take that bank can come take that land. You don't want them to come take that roof over your head. Yeah. So that may be more difficult to get done. However, if you've got a builder who has the capacity to say, all right, if we're not going to go buy you 100 acres, but if we're talking about a 5-acre lot, and if Scott tells me, and he's our preferred guy, and he says that you are going to be qualified to buy this piece of property with a house on it at this price point, we'll buy the land, we'll build the house, and we'll sell it to you like a regular purchase at the end of this. Let's go. And that I can get done, especially since you left a field that you started a business in the same field that you were already working in, and that you can show me that you're profitable. I'll find a way. We'll come up with a path.
But back to Jerry's question, cancellation of deals. Are you seeing a lot of that? Is that creeping up?
Not for anything weirder than what I normally see throughout. Yeah. And as far as foreclosures, I've had people, offer on them. I've seen. There's a great auction company that does some stuff, and I've seen more activity from them. But those aren't on foreclosed properties. It's just a different way to create a real estate transaction.
The inventory is just, if there's a foreclosure, if they're on the water, they're just going to sell the house and get out from underneath
There's
it.
enough equity to where
absolutely,
it's not going to fall into that.
I don't know how many real estate agents are watching, but on our side of it,
you got some asking for the take on the car. Was it Q2 that just came out? The Q2, did you read it?
I did. The one that's so old that it's
January, February, March. What is that? April, May, June.
Yeah. So we're almost a month.
3 weeks into July.
And that date is great, but this market is moving so fast. You have to look at it at a month over month. Look, as far as the car first quarter report goes, it's nothing new, right? There's nothing new here. It's what we've been talking about on Real Talk for.
Oh, it's Q1, Keith. It's not
Q1. I
Q2's
apologize.
report. Is it Q1 or Q2 report?
Hold it. What month are we in?
We're in what
July.
are we now? Q3 now, right?
Yeah. So it's Q2.
Yeah.
It's Q2. Sorry, my mistake. There's nothing new here. It's what we've been talking about. There's certain areas that go back. If you looked at a show that we did a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the first half of the year, what was selling, what wasn't selling. The big percentage hit was new construction, Albemarle County, and single-family detached, somewhere in the 40 to 50% year-over-year range. That's really stopped. That really hit the brick wall. I think the real test is going to be when we do what we did for the first 6 months after this third quarter, right? At the end of this third quarter, we're going to kind of know how this year is going to shake out.
You're saying people are going to be back from vacation.
That's what we're seeing.
That's your expectation.
That's what we're seeing. We're seeing people are back from vacation. We're seeing.
So you think Q3 could be best quarter of the year?
It typically is. Q4 is a weird year, right? A weird quarter, right?
Because a lot of the sales register the following year.
Correct. So if I write something in October and November, more than likely it will not close. If not right on December, it might close in the beginning of 2023, and that counts as a first quarter.
By the way, to all the buyers out there who might be thinking about buying at the end of the year, if you want to be in before Christmas, just contact me. I'll make sure that we close on time.
Scott Morris, ABC right there. Always be closing. Ross Mortgage right there. You can find him on any social media platform. He's all over the social game. If it's not Scott, I think it's your admin who does a hell of a job as well.
Tova Payne, cannot praise enough. She is super
She
amazing.
crushes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, so to your point, fourth quarter is kind of a weird quarter to take a look at it. So third quarter, we're going to kind of know where we're standing.
So does your crystal ball say Q3 is going to be the best quarter of the year?
I think you're going to see things picking up. I think Q1
Still is the best.
would be the best because we didn't start with the
rate hikes.
rate hikes, and then
We
there
were
was
low threes then.
Yeah, so this feels a lot like I was thinking about this morning on our conversation in the beginning of COVID, right? And everybody in the world was saying real estate's going to fall off the map, and we were predicting a V, a pretty sharp V, and it happened that way. I think you're going to see that there was this big shock in the market with the raise of interest rates. Things are starting to settle back down to quote unquote normal. Open houses are rocking and rolling again. We got 30, I think 22, coming up for this weekend. So pendings are starting to creep up a little bit. It's just this lack of inventory, which at one point we banned it, but now it's back in again.
I've seen a ton of inventory on the market.
So to give you an example,
But it's coming off, though.
a ton of interest and activity, and it's a smaller but similar. There's a place called Lake of the Woods in Lake of the Woods in Locust Grove, and
Great spot.
and it's very similar to Lake Monticello. There's a golf course, amenities, pool. They've got right now they're
It's in Louisa County, isn't it?
yeah, it's in Orange.
Got it.
And they've got their they're doing their like open house to people right now. But not only are they doing their open house, there's a ton of open houses going on. And what I mean by that is, like Lake Monticello had 10, 14 active listings. Do you happen to know what's active at the lake right now?
I did not
Let me
look.
see if I can find that.
Yeah, so I suspect it's in the 20s.
Okay, and talking.
The highest amount of inventory in the lake in years right now.
At least since the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
And I've been speaking to a bunch of different realtors who are like, hey, we're interested in this, we're going to see this. And before, the number one concern was always they've got a higher HOA than a lot of places. It is what it is. It's just, but when we talk about
It's really not.
But
It's
not Monticello, Lake of the Woods.
Oh, Lake of the
But
Woods,
when we
yeah.
talk about affordability affecting things, like people don't, at that point, we're not even having that affordability. Like, can they meet what you sent me on pre-approval inside of here? That's not even a conversation. It's just like, hey, look, we've got inventory. We've got houses to go show people. We're super excited.
But depending on what Jerry pulls for
24
Yeah.
Lake Monticello, including one that's been on the market at $199,000, a sub $200,000 home at Lake Monticello in good condition, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
How many days?
DOM on that is a week.
So we're starting to see the DOMs creep up.
Below 2
Yeah.
for a week. That's an eternity.
What do you think is affecting days on market? Do you think it's that there's still some people out there who have higher than realistic expectations about what they think they can get, and those few properties who are sitting or driving up days on market, or is it just the amount of inventory that's coming in?
I
So
think it's
the-
consumer
so the-
confidence and rates, man.
So the fact that we're having a conversation about 6 or 7 days on market is pretty interesting to me. The one that's, I remember when at Lake Monticello it was 100, 200 days on market. It was, a substantial amount. The thing about that 199,
And you want the address?
not necessarily,
Okay.
but the thing about that 199, I think, is the buyer profile, right? And what I mean by that is that they may not have the down payment required to go ahead and do this. When you were at 3% or something like that, the math kind of worked a little bit better. I haven't done the research, but I'm going to do a little bit more research for Friday's show about what's the largest volume of price point that's going on the contract in the last 30 days on that end of it. And I suspect you're going to see in the 2s and the 3s, because that particular buyer might have a little bit more cash to bring to the table. You would know more about that than I do, as far as folks coming for first-time homebuyer loans.
So in 2018, one of the big conversations that was had to have, it was a national story, it was Americans do not have enough savings.
Then all of a sudden it changed.
Well, I mean, then we got that juice.
Yeah, we got free money.
Baby. And what I'm seeing is that we still run into, your first time, when we talk affordability, when we talk about getting in, building some equity, is still the buyers that they may have down payment, but they may not have closing, or vice versa, however we want to structure the loan for type. That's still the number one obstacle for people getting in the market. And when you look at the increasing amount of inflation cost and rent cost that these people are trying to overcome, we live in a system that is very difficult for them to get in the game to build equity. Because once, we're talking about once they have $24,000 to make a purchase on a $300,000 house and close it, they don't have $24,000 anymore on the sidelines.
Exactly. Cut that into, this is a reel here, Judah. Keep going, Scott.
And that is this, we're back to singing and strumming that same song of the American savings rate, and how do we get people in a less affordable environment through down payment and closing. And so whether the price point is $200,000 or $300,000, the fundamentals do not change in the fact that in a higher inflation environment, where does that money come from? And once the money's gone, how do we protect those people down the road?
So it's funny you should bring that up. So as you know, I chair the Piedmont Community Land Trust, and as soon as the interest rates went up, we have 6, 7, 8. At that time we had 8 units left to sell at $214,750. It just stopped. In the last 2 weeks, we just sold 2 of them at $214,750, and we've got a bunch of other folks.
At 2 what?
At $214,750. You have to have income restrictions. There's a whole process to that. But all of a sudden, it goes to my point where everybody kind of hit the panic button or hit the brakes on it, and normalcy is getting back in. Two things I was listening to, I read in New York Times and listened to the radio when I was up north, which kind of scared me a little bit. One is, are you starting to see or hear in your circles the regulatory mechanisms starting to loosen up the ability to lend money to certain price points or anything? Are you hearing that at all?
He's talking no-doc loans.
No, I'm talking
less
first
regulation.
time. I'm talking first-time home buyers that the federal government is starting to get itself involved in that. Are you starting to hear or see any of that?
No,
that's not the work you do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, and from what I'm seeing, at least in the mortgage world, is when we talk about more dangerous product, I'm seeing those companies shut down.
In droves.
There's been, one from a volume side, the mortgage industry went through an enormous amount of boom where, from an operations standpoint, processors, underwriters, closers, were all brought in to handle the amount of volume, and the geniuses that were working at call centers who, were sending out pre-approvals that, could never get done. Those people are no longer in the business because they don't, the current market doesn't.
There's no froth. There's no low-hanging fruit. Right. The sledding is getting tougher. You have to work now. You have to be skilled.
It doesn't.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might have been this shift from refis to actual purchases, where you actually have to do that, because you pretty much don't see a lot of.
With the refis, you got a call center, and you're running whatever all the ads to the elderly on CNN and Fox News every night. Refinance your home. We'll help you. You can throw 1,000 of those against the wall, and if they don't work, they don't really hurt anybody. Nobody gets hurt. But in the purchase world, if somebody sells their house, and now all of a sudden you're having a conversation about, am I going to be homeless because somebody didn't do their job? Hey, Scott, can you fix this?
So
But
We're
that's
back
a
to
diff-
trusted advisor. That we've been talking about this for years on that end of it. Bring a trusted advisor. This is when trusted advisors go up. It's part of why I'm so excited about the future of real estate and what Scott and I do and what we all do here is because you really need to be a trusted advisor. You need to be on top of your game to help. This is when the pros show up right now on the end of it. And Jonas said I have to increase my pro, but anyway, I'm working on that. The New York Times article, what scared the hell out of me was there was discussion in this article, I'll bring it on Friday, about dropping PMI. And
from Fed loans.
That's exactly right, from Fed
Ain't
loans.
no way.
I'm just.
That's like an Elizabeth Warren wet dream. That is.
Well, tell us exactly how you feel about that, Scott.
Who's gonna?
We should explain to everybody PMI.
Yeah.
You don't put 20% down, you're getting hit with a monthly PMI.
So mortgage insurance. So PMI, private mortgage insurance. That's when you don't have 20% down. That's what there is a company that is collecting this so that if the borrower defaults, the investor receives.
So it's
some
important to
recoverable.
point out it does not help the borrower at all. It only helps the bank.
Correct, because the bank,
as it should.
The bank is the one exposed to most of the risk. They don't want to own the house. They don't want to have to.
I had a conversation with a young buyer that thought it was them.
So, well, no, and the mortgage insurance
Had a
that
PhD, by the way.
the mortgage insurance that you're paying on a USDA loan or an FHA loan is it's the price that you're paying to the government for the ability to use the program. And those are, and on a VA loan, it's a guarantee that it's guaranteed that if the borrower defaults, the investor is going to recover this much money. On for FHA, it is an insurance to where if the borrower defaults, the investor is going to recover this much money.
So I remember in 1994 when the government started doing this again. And that was the predecessor of ultimately this whole cookie jar analogy that I've used, that they said, okay, if you fit a certain profile, you can pull the cookies out of that, the buyer, and then all of a sudden everybody started pulling the cookies out and there was no cookies left. I'm just, it just, from a guy that's been around for a while, it scared the hell out of me. The fact that was even in an article.
The only thing that should scare you about that is that the government's figured out, things.
That's
that,
what
that
I'm.
we've,
That's the point I'm trying to get to.
That goes back to. It's just the same. There's no way that's something.
Okay, good.
Whoever runs.
Good.
Yeah,
I wrote it down and read in my book. No way.
Also important to emphasize that with your PMI, guys, once you hit that 20% level of equity, the PMI should go away.
It's actually 78%.
All right,
You have to contact
Yep.
your people.
They're not going to just remove it to remove it. You need now, and that is again, that's on a conventional loan. If we're talking an FHA product, if you have less than 10% down on your initial purchase, that mortgage insurance is for the life of the loan. Now, the life of the loan. So if you refinance out of FHA into a conventional, all right. Everybody who's purchased a home.
That's a reason to refi.
Everybody who's purchased a home since March when rates have gone up, and you were FHA, we get into 2024, and you were at 5.25 when you purchased in April of this year. Or May of this year, and now rates are 4.75. You've built some equity. We're going to go in, and you don't have 20% equity, but you've got 90% equity. So we're gonna refinance you, include your closing cost in the loan, and we're going to the mortgage insurance is going to exist, but now it's going to go away when you get to 20%. So there's still ways to move you out of that lifetime mortgage insurance through the FHA product in a refinance into a conventional product as you move forward.
To Jerry's point, though, you should keep it on track of it because we talk about this on the show all the time. The latte factor. Buy one less of these, pay towards your principal, and once you hit that, I believe it's 78%, right? It's not actually 80%.
78% that's when they actually must remove.
Correct.
And you can notify at 80.
You can notify at 80.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some. Now, let's say that you put 10% down and you went through this wild world. And I'll tell you this because this is something that I got a house where they started sending me, you can get this much cash out. I'm like, well, if I can get that much cash out, then you better drop my mortgage insurance. And they're like, well, it's inside of 24 months, so it's gonna. Have you done? Are there this many improvements to the property and all this other stuff? And it's like,
We trust you.
Hey, you
but-
put in hardwood floors, Scott.
I did.
You did some improvements.
Replaced the roof.
Yeah.
we trust you, but not that much.
Yeah,
That's what they're saying.
No, it's not. We trust you, but not that much.
No, it's we want your money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we want your money.
well, I was being
We're
sarcastic.
greedy SOBs.
I was being sarcastic on it.
So and then I just got away from it. I need to go back to getting that appraiser back out there. But bottom line is, yes, it can be removed. Yes, there are some cases where it's permanent. So you need to be mindful and have someone who's educating you on the process as you're going through it on what to expect. But again, this goes back to, most people are not going to be in the same mortgage for the 30-year lifetime of that mortgage.
So the young people that we're working with, the millennials to buy that are re-entering the market, at least from our
I mean, you
experience.
got a sub 200 at the lake right now.
There you go.
Hey, John Sacco's got a 249 property out in Louisa right now.
We got a lot of people asking about the lake, frankly. We got Ray Cadell chiming in. What can I get to a couple comments here?
Yes, sir.
Kelsey Klein said sub 200 at the lake. You guys talk about this neighborhood all the time. If memory serves correct, the Smiths live here. Can you give us insight into the other listings that are at Lake Monticello? Hasn't Keith said that this is one of the most popular neighborhoods from a price point and from a first-time home buyer standpoint around?
It has been, historically has been for a bunch of decades on that end of it. Didn't have that data with it.
I got it for you.
Cool. Then
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
throw me some data and I'll react to it.
So you got 24 homes on the market at the lake. A couple of those are paper houses. that
Meaning
are
new construction.
New construction. So if you wanted actual, if you wanted non-paper houses, you're looking at 20 active listings.
So put that in perspective. That's out of 4,300 300 and change, a little bit north of 300.
Still almost 2x more than what we were accustomed to during the pandemic.
but I will tell you, for 30-something years,
You saw 40, 50, 60, if not more.
so the rule of thumb was usually about 40-ish, plus or minus. What is that? Who's that's 1%, right?
Yeah,
Of 4,000, right? And that's a super low number. I tell you, in 1987 when I got there, it was half the homes were on the market.
So you're
Well,
probably
that's
at,
because there were half the homes built.
No, there was only 600.
In
In 87, 600 to 800 homes back
so,
Um,
then.
And that's one of the demographic. Just slightly off topic. Well, this is about the lake, so this will be interesting to those that are listening. So, of the houses that in 1987, so the lake was built and literally advertised as a retirement community. So the bulk of those ranchers that you see,
Actually, a vacation community.
A vacation community. Well, it was
Vaca-
advertised in New York. For
Well,
people
so I know a little bit about this, Scott, and I love you.
Okay.
So that was in the 80s. That's how I got there.
That's what I'm talking about.
you saw the advertisement.
Actually, how I came down
Yeah.
was from the advertisement. But the lake started.
But it wasn't just you. It was
No,
also,
he brought the whole damn family.
Yeah, well, and I don't mean just his
He
family.
brought all of Brooklyn.
He,
with
yes,
him.
New York moved
So,
into.
okay,
I meant the
let's-
family in the
let's-
mafia
let's-
sense over here.
Hey, I just came from North.
I
You better
know,
watch it.
I know.
I will call my Uncle Vito from Staten Island if you do not behave.
He brought all the Smiths with him.
And if you don't think I have an uncle,
I
Vito
totally
in Staten
believe you.
Island-
I have no doubt you do.
My
You
grandfather.
might be wearing a white tank top.
How did you know? Do you know him, my Uncle Vito? My God rest his soul. My grandfather was, from Italy. He was immigrated here on my mother's side of the thing, and after the war, he got into construction. And as a kid growing up, he had a brand new Cadillac every year, and I never seen the dude work. I have no idea what the man
He
did.
worked construction, but he had hands that were as soft as a baby. That tells you something right there.
Something like that. But
So go ahead. Got a lot of stuff coming in here.
yeah, no, I see it. So Lake Monticello started was 68 and 69. There's this whole rumor about the lake filling up from Camille in 69. It kind of got a lot of it filled up, but it didn't fill up the whole lake. But from 68 to 69, the original intent of it, and I know this because I've read the obscene amount of paperwork on it and did enough development out there, was supposed to be a vacation community. Where we live at the Acres was supposed to be an airport, right? And the whole intent was to fly in people from Northern Virginia down there. And then it never happened, and a company out, a little history here, guys, a company out of Pennsylvania called Cost Control Marketing started marketing up in the New York Newsday and Daily News and all this stuff. We'll pay you $150 to come down. Us being dummies go, oh, okay. And what they ended up doing was a little. They actually it was a class action lawsuit in it on that end of it. What they would do is they would put options on lots. And I would go see Jerry, the sales guy over there, and I'd sit in his car, and they had these CB radios. They never took you to the main gate. They took you to these different gates, and they sold you that it was their development. And we're coming from New York looking at this golf course community, looking at all this stuff and going, oh, my God, what a great deal. And we bought, I think, we bought a $44,000 lot that was worth maybe $4,000, right? And, they controlled the lending. They got in trouble at the FCC.
Sounds like a racket.
Oh, dude,
it
there was some super weird stuff. Even prior,
my God, you have no idea.
Leading up to 2007, 2008, there was somebody, I can't remember the name specifically, but there was some dude who built a house on a lot that he didn't even own.
Oh, yeah. That was not uncommon. On the lot.
How the hell does that work? How do you get a construction loan if you don't earn the dirt?
Because he's building the house.
You got to remember, we're talking in the late 80s. They didn't have the rules.
No, he said this is 2007.
This probably happened in 99.
Okay.
Yeah, because prior to that, the lake did not require site plans. Then that happened.
What?
Yeah.
It's like the Wild West.
Oh, yeah. God rest his soul, Barry Parrish was the first building inspector I had there, and I was 1988. I'm building my first house, right? I'm like super pumped. I got a set of plans, I got a spec sheet, I got everything. I walk into Barry, and he looks at them and he goes, "What's them, boy?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What's them?" I said, "A set of plans." Yeah, we don't need them here, right? And he said, "Write me a check." We talked about his dog, and I walked out the thing, and I turned to Yona. I said, "Man, we're not in Kansas any longer," right?
But you got it done.
Got it done, yeah. Got it done. But that is true. It's not it's one of the reasons why if we help you buy a home in Lake Monticello, you will get a survey. You will get a physical survey. We will do that because houses are in building setbacks. Some houses are half on different lots, but.
So my whole point going into this was a lot of those ranchers,
we went off on
those original ranchers are now, that's like a big part of the investor pool
Yeah.
That's out there now. So when you write on, and they also happen to be like great, those are like your prime starter homes for people trying to get in.
Easy to maintain.
Absolutely.
But back in the 70s and the 80s, all the prime lots got gobbled up. Right, so if this was a professionally developed project, which what happened was the original developer left, handed over the development to the association way too soon on it, and the reality of it is if it was a regular development, they probably would have held some of their prime lots for later on in it, staged it, and all this kind of great stuff. So all the great waterfront lots got eaten up real quick on that end of it.
And to the viewers' question, of the 20 resales that are active on the market, I'm not talking paper houses or new construction, 20 resales active, 11 are sub 300.
Yeah.
Hey, that's to me like
that's the price point.
Yeah, to me the 285 like rings the bell.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot right there.
Yeah, and they will sell. It just won't be in minutes. It won't be in 2 days. It'll be in the normal 2 or 3 weeks. And on Friday, I'll bring some stats, like I said, at Lake Monticello, what was the average price point? How many days on market was it, historically on it? But, to look at a week or 7 days, that's just getting started.
So you're saying expect longer DOMs?
Yeah, well,
is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is expect normalcy, right? Expect things to go back to normal. Expect the loan process to go back to normal. Expect appreciation to go back to normal. Expect DOMs to go back to normal. Expect professionalism to go back to normal on that end of it.
Let's get to Big Ray of Big Ray and the Cool Cats, the CEO of Ray Cadell and Associates.
I had the fortunate to have a conversation with him driving down on Monday. A good man.
He said, I just had a deal die last night, Keith.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray.
Settlement was scheduled for this Friday. The
Ooh.
lender, local by the way, underwriting didn't like a gap in employment, 50% down. Seems thus should have happened at application, not days before closing. Gap was on the application. Ray Cadell.
Ray, I've got a
You can
land.
always private
Scott
message
Morris,
me.
Ross Mortgage, Ray Cadell.
Message me, Ray. I'd love to take a look.
Ray Cadell, Scott can help you on this. In fact, I may start a little DM chain here to get the conversation going.
Had the same thing happen on the land trust thing this morning.
You got Kevin Yancey with something for you guys.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
From Waynesboro. With the current inflated home prices, as Keith stated, normal appreciation is 2 to 3%. How many years before buyers will be able to expect to see normal appreciation again, Keith and Scott?
So I think you're going to see this year, and I'll let Scott jump in, but I think you're going to see this year be just shy of 10%. I think you're going to be somewhere to 6 to 8% when we have this show the second month of next year and we take a look at all of 2022. I think you'll see somewhere between a 6 to 8%. I think 2023, you're going to start going back to the normal appreciations.
Scott, thoughts?
Depends on, how right I am in my timing. As long inventory is going to control and appreciation, and the longer that we go with tight inventory, the more you're going to see greater appreciation. And until we see what we're starting to see effect, I've got a great August on the books. I'm a little nervous about September, and
But is it normal for you to be that far out at this point? To be six? Is looking at it in tail end of July?
No. What I'm
Normally.
saying is, at some point, well, we're starting to see more inventory come back. So I'm really not nervous. It's more like.
But are we really seeing more inventory come back?
In pockets, yeah. We're double the inventory at the lake than we were now. Well, we were 6 properties at 11, so 5 paper, 6 resales, and now we're at 20. I'd say double the inventory.
Oh, I think at some levels more than double, because we were in single digits there for
yes,
very low single digits.
I would say that we're seeing inventory come back, and I think we're seeing properties that are overpriced, run up days on market, and when you see a prime property come on, those are still the ones that are getting 5, 10 offers and driving price activity. And you've got great agents out there who go and they list below where they expect it to be and drive that activity and do their sellers a great service. And then you have agents who are scared of their seller and price a property outside of where it should be, and that's where it sits on market and runs up those days of inventory. That is what.
Well, that's where the uncomfortable conversation starts now, right? To price the home. That's where the professional.
If you're awkward enough, every conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Good, very good point. I'm not sure you were looking at me when you said that, but anyway.
No. You were not awkward.
No. But that's, you got to have your confidence to have that conversation. This is what it is. This is why the comment I made, data 3 weeks ago is kind of old data, right? You need to be looking at current data and have communications with folks like Woody Fincham, right, of Fincham Associates. Say, hey, Woody, what are you seeing? I had a conversation with him at the board meeting today. What are you seeing things moving along? But it's interesting. You talked about price changes. Last 7 days we had 76. A year ago was 30. So, more than double are changing prices. And I can tell you, if I looked at the price changes a year ago, most of them are probably going up.
Ray adds he's representing the seller in that deal.
Yeah.
That fell apart.
I'm Ray. I'm so sorry that I cannot help you, but in the future.
Well, you can suggest to the buyer's agent to give you a
it's
call.
that. I did do a intro thread there with Scott and Ray. I think there's some harmony and synergy on your horizons, gentlemen. Can we talk non-conforming and jumbo? And what is it? 650 now? Is that the threshold for non-conforming? Is Is it 647,500? Is it something like that?
647,250.
647,250. So anything above 647,250 is a different financing vehicle?
Correct. Now that doesn't mean, so let's get to qualify that. Let's say the house is $700,000. If you're putting down 5%,
what is that, 35K? So that might not get you below.
Yeah, so
maybe
let's
675
let's say
we'll
you're
use.
putting 10%. That's gonna get you down below into conforming from jumbo.
So have we seen, where's demand at? How's demand consistent? Is it softening? Is there still momentum there in the jumbo market,
Again,
the luxury market?
So again, pockets. I just closed a 700 and plus thousand 203K 610 on a purchase side with $130,000 in reno attached to it, and that was on a property that sat, like, needed some love, and we came up with a solution for it. So higher price, not not in the best condition. Those are the things that you see that everybody, if everybody can find a problem with it, nobody wants to get involved. But then if it's, again, if it's a property that is prime and everybody likes, then it's still going to get that activity, and that's still happening at $1 million.
So I want to ask you a question. I did a deal over the weekend representing the buyer out of Northern Virginia. It was a little south of $700,000 cash. And the original conversation, it's in the city of Charlottesville, and the original conversation was they were going to finance. I believe you actually spoke to this client. So what they've decided to do is put an offer in it to get it because they were competing against other folks to go ahead and get it. Let's talk about a strategy of this particular buyer, which is the decision they made, was to pay in cash, close it, then come see you to refinance it. What does that look like?
Faster to closing.
Is that we know that's a faster to get the deal done, faster to close. It made the difference for us to get to beat out.
That's the only reason to do that.
We were competing
about.
Wouldn't
you think?
That's
12,
yeah.
But talk about was that a good move for them to, let's say 6 months from now or 12 months from now when it hits that 4% to refi? Talk about that.
I mean, is that what they felt like they needed to do to win?
Oh yeah,
was it that competitive? Then props to them, right?
Then it was the right decision.
No, I understand that, but as far as a strategy goes, does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. But we're talking about, I'm gonna call that a unicorn. There's not,
a lot of people, 700,000 on the sidelines. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was classic Northern Virginia. They sold something.
Got it.
I
get it. I got
a bunch of cash.
Yes, if you are in that position, then it's a fantastic move for you.
Yeah.
But not everybody fits that bill, and then the only downside is you're going to pay 2 rounds of closing costs, and now with that said, you can probably go in, take $500,000, put that into a mortgage, and take that $500,000 and put that into some sort of strategized investment with another trusted advisor, or if you're that dude or you're that dudette who knows what they're doing, that you're going to make much more money from that money not being trapped inside of a property and it actively being in the market.
The point I was trying to drive is something that you've been saying and Jerry's been saying is, real estate market is 5 things, right? Location, price, features, condition, and timing. And the 700, the jumbo, it is what made me think about this. The jumbo market end of it in Charlottesville at that price point still had multiple offers, still was highly competitive.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's my point. If you love it, somebody else likes it a little bit too. If you shrug your shoulders at it, that's probably what everybody else.
It's funny you should say that, because the first question I asked before we went forward with this is, tell me on the love scale how much you love this, and it was off the charts in love. I said, okay, now we've got to go to work to get you. You
are seeing the inventory in Albemarle counties. I mean, if you want to call them the big 3 luxury neighborhoods, Farmington, Keswick Estates, and Glenmore not moving right now.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me because
The market has shifted.
shifted, right? And so it goes back to the location. We've been talking about this. Micro locations will do really well. Some locations will shift
even
will get
Farmington, you know.
Yeah, but Farmington always has been up and down. It's been that way for decades that I've been here. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Do you realize that we're talking about another level?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another level. Certainly with Keswick Estates in Farmington.
Yeah.
It's a different stratosphere.
It's a different buyer.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. Glenmore's a different story.
What did you do last summer? Well, we were in the Hamptons for 2 months.
Yeah, it's a
and,
different. You're talking multiple houses. The folks here. It's a different buyer for
bro,
sure.
I went to work. That's what I did last summer.
So, but the point and the you feel good? Yeah, give me a high five.
I worked as well. So did Keith and Judah.
Well, some people will define me not working, but anyway, so it's the point I was trying to make is that this is again back to the professional, back to the trusted advisor. Literally, it was prior to the craziness that started back in 2000, maybe 19, end of 19. Locations matter, right? And price matters, and features matter, and conditions matter. In this particular case, it hit all four. They had the capital, and they jumped in with 2 feet and said, I'm ready to go. On the end of it, maybe in the lower price point, not so much.
I was having this conversation, Judah and I were with the builder yesterday, and we were talking about the price points for new construction.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked him, are the new construction price points going to drop if the Fed gets inflation under control? Will the cost of goods start coming down? He said no. He said these are the price points moving forward for new construction. The labor has gone up exponentially, which is now causing all these homes to be more expensive. And even if lumber and some of these cost of goods get steady, he says we're not going to drop. The price ain't going to go back down.
Part of that is some of the other ones are getting a little bit more expensive, but the real issue is the labor. That's what nobody's talking about.
The labor's gotten 40%, 50% more expensive.
And that number is just going to keep on climbing.
And they can't find people still.
No, well, I posted that article with the K-Tech couldn't find a teacher.
Yeah, and they can't find people still.
Yeah, and they had 60 students, can't find them.
So then my follow-up question to him would be the resale market. That is, say, 4,000, 5,000 square foot brick home, doesn't that value get preserved then if the new construction's not going to drop in price and still remain expensive?
Yeah, so the point about that is you're making an assumption that the guy or the people that want to do a new construction at that upper end level
would do a resale?
Would do a resale. They may just stay where they are.
But that's not the only point. The point that follows that
or buy a
is
second
that
home.
It's also more expensive and will continue to be more expensive to try to build affordable homes.
So I'll tell you, when I started,
for sure on that.
And now let's talk about this. So I shared an article about why that even though I do not like the government intervening in things, if they want to intervene in something, they should intervene in small to mid-sized builders continuing to be able to build, because there is an entire in skilled trade labor, plumbers, automotive technicians, carpenters, electricians. These are fields to which we went away from grooming, teaching people how to do things, into teaching them learning things makes you important. And
100%.
And so there's a meme that floats around that my friend got a degree in Egyptology but could not find a job, so now he's getting a PhD in Egyptology, and his entire education is literally a pyramid scheme. And in that, if you don't have carpenters, think about, look. All right, so I've got a friend, Louis Ventura runs a carpentry business that has grown exponentially because he and his brothers do. They're very organized. They run great crews. They do a good job. We have a friend named Rusty. Rusty runs a framing crew. Rusty getting old. Lewis getting old. And while Lewis doesn't do a lot of the labor and is shifted to a supervisor, he's got a pool of people he can recruit for. Rusty has a more difficult time recruiting. And when you go in to get your car fixed, they have a difficult time and have had a hard time recruiting from trade schools, K-Tex, J. Sargent Reynolds, those sorts of things. And this is a continuous field of, it's not that there aren't humans out there capable of doing it. We have educated away from telling these people that these are worthwhile jobs. You have plumbers out here who are making six figures.
We scarlet lettered those jobs.
And yes,
we
What are you gonna do? You got cartoons as a kid. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be out here doing that instead of this,
right.
And it's just this
terrible.
absolute. It's just I was a carpenter, not a good one, but I was one, and.
I will be the judge of that.
I mean, Keith was here. I had a feeling Keith was going to say. You
I'm
waited for a second.
I am really trying to be good.
But if the government wants to
this whole monologue, I'm thinking to myself, really?
If the government wants to incentivize something, it needs, because what's going to happen is builders say, I'm not going to reduce the price of this home because, I'm making 15% now.
And they got hammered during the pandemic, especially in the early stages, and they're trying to make up for it some.
So
sure, but where do you make it up? Because with the increased labor costs, with the continuing supply chain on windows, they don't. So they
go to remodeling.
So they're forced to either shrink their margins or go find something else to do. So if the government wants to step in, it needs to subsidize building, and I don't mean paying Centivar, Ryan Homes, Lamar, D.R. Horton. I'm not talking about these publicly traded companies who also own the mortgage companies who drive that side of the business out. I'm talking about small to mid-sized builders, so that if you're making if Syntex or Ryan or one of these companies want to do that, then fine. Bust your business into 1,000 small companies and make them do the tax dance in order to make it work for them, and incentivize the guy who lives down the street who's just trying to put together localized crews and support their own communities.
So if you go, well done.
Yeah, well done.
If you can take a breather, take a sip. But if you go back and watch shows, I've been talking about this forever, holding up this iPhone I have in my hand, right? This is not going to frame your house, right? This is not going to do the plumbing. You
can't YouTube your way through this.
You cannot YouTube your way through this end of it. So, but it's interesting. So my nephew in Europe has got this straight. When he in high school had a choice to do the college route or do the trade school route, and went to trade school route, and he actually is a diesel mechanic. And,
my brother-in-law was a diesel mechanic who then worked for CAT and now runs the entire state of Louisiana for UPS as a supervisor.
One of my best friends became an electrician as we all graduated high school. He got paid to be an electrician as an apprentice where everybody else was taking on student loan debt. He worked as an electrician for another company for 5 years, now owns his own company, easily does over $250,000.
There you go.
He has 2 electricians working for him. He's not even doing the work. He's managing 2 electricians and making money off of them.
And even if new construction drops down, he will do well. He will do well.
He's choosing the jobs he wants.
Yeah, of course.
And turning them down.
Sure. He'll do well. But, it's the go back to the new construction end of it until we fix that. But this is always... I'm trying to figure out
It's been exasperated.
I'm trying to figure out a zing for him.
His carpentry work?
It looks so nice because we did it twice.
No, I think twice is an you're underselling that a little bit.
You did not like hearing that when he pulled up to the job site.
No. That conversation typically started with, what is this? And then it's like, what is what? This is not supposed to look like that. It's like, well, when you show up tomorrow, it'll look like whatever it's supposed to look like.
And then you drank a Budweiser. Is that what you did?
And everybody wonders why this 3% thing we talked about before I went, this net, that's one of the reasons right there.
Last question for you. This is a question on a piece of property. Augusta County, 80-acre parcel in Augusta County, raw land, currently zoned agriculture. Asking price is $93,000.
Yeah, how close to Fishersville and Waynesboro it is.
We need some more information. Kevin, if you can share us that link. And I think you would want to get the link, right, before you offer your take.
I would, the where, we know this whole location thing is making a thing. But to Kevin's point, I think he's driving at, and I may be wrong.
Oh, he's the hugest proponent of that land, of that area.
Yeah, so I think you're going to start seeing some more development happen on the other side. Not I think I know. Some more development happen on the other side of the mountain. It didn't stop with the $4 gas or that type of, but you're going to start seeing, unfortunately, it's stepping back locally. It's just going to the path of least resistance. And I think the other side of the mountain is definitely where you're going to see some of the new construction. Back on the cost items real quick. When I started in 1987, 88 building houses, I was charging $50 a square foot, and that was a huge number. People were like, oh my God, you'll never get that. And what is it now? Well,
what's production now?
Oh, production, I'd have to look at it, but these were customs.
Okay, custom is what, 4?
Oh, yeah, if you can get anybody to talk to you between $300 to $400 a square foot, that's a good thing. And most of the guys are booked out.
Until next year.
Or guys are out.
Not just the guys. So, all right, if you're somebody who wants to do a custom home, first thing that you need to do is contact an architect. Contact the architect and get an idea of what that sort of plans looks like, because then they may be able to direct you to a custom builder who they already work with, and they're going to be in line. Because the first thing that you're going to run into is you call 10 builders, nobody calls you back. One of them finally calls you back, and then you tell them that, hey, you want to build this custom home, and we don't do that. Here's a set of 10 homes that you can choose from.
Or you seek out design build firms like Bramante Homes, right?
Yeah,
and that's something that we did, back in the 90s. The architects went away. We brought in our own in-house designer. We were designing them and building them because we wanted to hold everything under one roof. So that's what you're going to see a little bit of pivoting to.
It's within 5 miles of the Fisherville exit on 64. $93K for 80,000, or excuse me, 93,000 is the asking price for
I'd have to look at
80
it.
acres.
Yeah, the availability of water and sewer would impact that property quite a bit.
Friday show?
It's just you and I, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Batman and Robin?
Robin, and Alfred. Looking forward to it. Made a bunch of notes from today. We'll go ahead.
We had so much ammunition.
We got, so we're looking forward to it.
Fantastic. You killed it today.
Thanks, man.
Fantastic work.
Scott
Morris, Ross Mortgage guys, Scott Morris. Find them online. You can see that you can count on him to deliver. Keith Smith always delivers. One of the principles of Yes Realty Partners. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. All the shows archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. We love having the guys here. Love having Scott and Keith here. I just love doing the show with these guys. The I Love Seville show is up in about 45 minutes, where we're going to talk about the atomization of American culture and how it's become a monthly subscription type of mindset for so many in our country. Judah, thank you, my friend. You guys will catch you very soon. Take care. Well done, fellas. Scott, well done.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks guys.